Good morning. We're up nice and early Sunday for some heavy doubles. I will get into that, but as I slurp down my coffee, I wanted to talk a little bit about pain and strength, joint strength. Again, I think I've been meaning to make some dedicated content around this, specifically knee stuff, because I know so many people, similar age to me, kind of ask about this, but work's been kind of crazy, and so just haven't made the time. But my brother texted me yesterday asking about he's getting back into squatting and talking about back pain, and I think I lifted with a friend last week who was also sort of um, had questions about back pain and hip pain and things like this, and so figured maybe I would take this morning to talk a little bit about uh, my journey in philosophy. Um, I think you know it's easy to look at sort of like my squats now and uh, assume it's been easy, but I would assure you that over the last 8 months, getting back into things, I have gone through intense back pain, tweaking my back, pretty bad knee pain. This era of worrying that I have patellar tendonitis that will never go away, um, and most recently hip pain and pain in my vastus lateralis. Kind of going down the side of my leg, IT band pain. Um, Today, I feel great in all three of those areas. Um, and it's not to say that I think that you can kind of solve these problems completely, when you're older. I think, in my own experience, it's they pop in and they pop out, but um, you can bulletproof considerably. And I'm biased because I'm laser focused on one motion right now, but I feel that the squat is actually, you know, um, it may be the cause of pain sometimes, but it is also the medicine. I think if you can, do the movement in a controlled manner, sometimes with a little less weight if the pain is really intense, but, really kind of focusing on, strengthening those areas, especially with the knees. I think, this time around, I guess knees have probably been the toughest to harden, or like the thing that I felt the most pain in. So that's actually the thing I want to do, like a dedicated series on, just sort of like all of the things I've done, all of the uh, accessories I've done to sort of like help strengthen my knees. But the ultimate exercise for strengthening knees is the squat. It really is. Like maybe elevate your heels, go a little deeper, bring your hamstrings all the way to your calves, but like that the extension at the bottom, where your tendons are fully stretched, sort of feeling that and sort of like working that is sort of will strengthen them. Like it's and I think the same principle applies to back. I last week, you know, I, I just by virtue of squatting a lot, doing a lot of dead hangs, stretching my back, doing lots of like toe touches and things like this. Last week after squatting, I just jumped in and did like a triple of 455 cold on the deadlifts, which isn't like my max, but it's pretty heavy for me. And it's not like I didn't. I probably shouldn't have jumped in and did a triple cold, but I did, and it didn't actually cause any problems. I think you can. I think that's one thing I would absolutely impart is um, anyone who's feeling pain, it's worthwhile to have like a really high standard for how good you can feel, because if you do this, if you like are very serious about your strength and sort of like do the reps well and um, you know minimal form breakdown, but increase the weight and increase the intensity, with that constraint. Um, you can kind of like bulletproof yourself, right? Like you can get to the point where uh, places that are inconceivable to you now. I think I thought at the beginning of this year that um, I would have trouble, as long as I'm doing strength stuff, I'm going to have trouble walking downstairs or going on hikes. Um, but on off days, I'm like doing hill sprints, and like, a lot of stairs in my house. So I'm constantly walking up and down stairs. My knees feel so greasy, so good. I feel like, I've started incorporating more jumping into just kind of like, because I want to like train some explosiveness and elasticity, and everything feels better than it did before I was squatting. So yeah, it's a little bit of a ramble. I apologize for those who want like a little bit more of like quick fixes, and that will come. I want to put together very clinical, because I do a lot of accessories as well. Actually, in the day of LLMs, like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, it's a great time actually to use those as your physiotherapist. I have a really great ongoing chat with Claude about mobility, where it sort of now has memory around, or it knows, sort of like what I do for strength and sort of like things I've dealt with, and always has suggestions on movement patterns that I should practice. So there really is no excuse for having access to that information. Um, you know, but anyways, I do a decent amount of mobility work before and after work lifts. Throughout the day. At my desk, I have like a bunch of things that you can do. I can do while sitting down or while standing at my standing desk. Um, I think practicing the movement patterns is the way to practicing the movement patterns, ideally loaded, is the way to sort of bulletproof your joints. So that is perhaps the big takeaway. And the secondary takeaway is like, have a really high standard for how good you can feel, because I now come to believe that, and like I'll probably run into deeper issues as I age more. I'm not that old, right? Like, it's just like this first shift in feeling my age. But I I'm pretty confident now that I can kind of like work through any pain and get to the point where that thing feels great. So yeah, uh, practice the movement pattern under load, controlled, good reps, have a really high standard for how good you can feel, because um, I yeah, I've just gone through this experience so many times now where I've gone from like, this feels like soul crushing pain to this thing feels bulletproof now. Anyway, that was a little bit of a ramble, a little bit too long of a ramble perhaps, but a little teaser for the more structured content to come. On to today's lift. We're doing heavy doubles, as I said earlier. So this is the first day of intensity week in this new monthly program I've sort of like set myself up for. So next week is maxes. So this is like the last week of work, and it's very focused on high weight, low reps. I'm going to try to keep the reps very high quality though. So doubles at around 365. And then if I'm feeling good after doing a bunch of those, which I should be, I think this feels very manageable. Then I'm going to do one single at 375 just to feel that weight. And probably not do too much accessories, mostly just stretching. I think the work is gonna um, be pretty exhausting. So yeah, let's get after it. I realize this video is going to be insanely long. I may cut out pieces into little sub videos as well, but I wanted to show. I know I haven't been filming my warm ups recently, just because makes the videos much longer, but wanted to share at least one warm up set in the context of you know sort of good movement practice, and sort of like strengthening and dealing with pain and things like this. So I'm going to show just like one quick warm-up set here and talk a little bit about it. Yeah, so I take warm-ups very seriously. I'm sure there are different schools of thought here. You know, I think there's a lot you can experiment with on tempo, but the tempo I found to be sort of like 80-80-20 for practice is the slow eccentric and explosive concentric. You know, sort of like feel your muscles stretching to position, you know, winding up on the way down and then explode with good movement on the concentric. You know, I will experiment more later, but this works. This works well to train, to sort of like neurologically train yourself to be using all your muscles properly, and it strengthens. So, yeah, anyways, onwards. Fucking my fat fingeredness. I just deleted the video of me hitting set number 5. So you'll have to believe I did it. It moved fast too. That's a shame. So instead, I'm going to do one more rep at 375 just to feel the weight, but also, I don't know, maybe I'm letting vanity get in the way of progress, but show that I got a little bit more in the tank. So let's go. All right, hard work is done. Feeling really good. I think I haven't moved the weight like this without belt or without knee wraps, I think ever. So feeling a lot of confidence and just kind of like overall strength, joints, everything is just like whirring, you know? So a week from today, we got to run for another 1 rep max. And so I'm feeling quite confident, you know, when I throw on the belt, the knee wraps are going to kind of crush. So very excited for that. So I said I wasn't going to do accessories, but just with lower backs on the mind, and I want to help out any watchers who suffer from lower back pain or tweak lower backs, because it's just like such a common thing. I'm going to do a little bit of lower back work around sort of like the 2 exercises that I feel are just like the best things to do, bar none. So I'm going to make a new video though, because this video is getting very long. So I'm going to cut here, and I'll see you in the next video, which I will link in the description.